But let's see it in action. Meet Mona, a developer who's just been assigned a new project. Mona uses GitHub projects to manage her tasks and track iterations of work. GitHub's customizable views, filters, and layouts make it easy for teams to work their way. Mona quickly sets up an on-demand development environment using GitHub Codespaces. No more fighting with dependencies. She dives into coding with GitHub Copilot, making her code more readable and efficient. She then sets up automated testing with GitHub Actions, easily version controlled like the rest of her code. Meanwhile, Mona's colleague had set up repository rules to enforce DevOps governance practices across their GitHub organization. Mona avoids leaking secrets by using GitHub Advanced Security secret scanning push protection, and also identifies potential security vulnerabilities using code scanning. In this short video, we've seen how GitHub can streamline your experience throughout the development lifecycle.
We know time is money and the most important metric for DevOps and DevX teams. The question they want answered is, where are all my minutes going? Actions Usage Metrics addresses this question, and others by focusing on minutes used per workflow, job, repository, runtime OS, and runner type. This data helps organizations locate areas of improvement in their software delivery lifecycle, saving time and money, and more. All usage metrics, filtered or not, can be downloaded as a CSV file to use with your tool of choice. To learn more about Actions Usage Metrics, scan the QR code now. Well. This is Open Source Friday. Hello, friend.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone. I am so excited because we never get to do this.
Never.
We never do. I have to make appointments to get some catch-up time with this year, that lady Deb. So I am super excited because today I didn't need an appointment.
Yay! I know. I'm so excited that we're able to pop into the stream and actually just talk to the people. Hey, y'all! Welcome to Open Source Friday. Super stoked to be here. We should do this more often, Andrea. Maybe. Let's see how it goes today.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see if in a few minutes folks are like, yeah, no, that's all right. See you never. But no, I don't think so. I think we have a very, very lovely audience, and so it is very exciting that we're able to be here today. And we have an interesting topic. Well, for those of you who've never joined Open Source Friday, how about we say what it is, this thing that we do?
I know.
Let's do it. And hey, shout out to Toby Solutions. Toby, thank you for being here. You're like one of the regulars. I appreciate folks to come and support our streams. This means nothing without you, okay? This is all for you. All for the open source community, all for the contributors, the maintainers, the companies.
Literally.
Everyone
so
that's
what
here.
Is open source? So what is Open Source Friday? I would I would say that Open Source Friday is the space where maintainers get to show off the projects that they maintain, essentially. It's a great way to get contributors to your project, to show off your project to a very large audience, and to, big up yourself, essentially, on all the great work that you're doing. I say big up yourself. I'm Jamaican. That's where that came from. But that's essentially what it is. It's just a fun, chill place to show off your project and, do some coding.
I love that. And well, for those of you who are joining us right now, and thank you, Toby, again for being here. Every Friday, we're super it's an honor to be able to invite these amazing maintainers to come and basically do that, just show off their projects, talk about what they're building. This Friday, we had scheduled an amazing maintainer. I know, 10 Stack Forums, so excited. Unfortunately, they had a emergency, and so we're going to go ahead and postpone that transmission. So the format today is going to be a little bit different because we're actually going to be talking about, what do you say? How is the sausage made? What happens inside Open Source Friday, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to just briefly cover a bit of the background on why this even become a thing. I think it's worth giving a bit of a history because this is like good history, like archaeology for GitHub. Shout out to our resident historian, Lee Riley.
Yes.
But it's important to note that there's been a lot of people before us who have had the stream. Shout out to the one and only Rizal. Thank you. And Brian A, exactly. And then before that, it was a GitHub, I think it was a GitHub documented initiative to start to get folks, before it was a stream, to start to get folks and companies the space to get into that sounds bad, allowing a space for employees on Fridays to work on open source projects. So if you were a company, that was the beginning. I know I'm a dinosaur. I'm over here like throwing it way back. I'm like, once upon a time. And so this whole Open Source Friday initiative was born basically, and there were some really amazing folks, like the folks from Mike McQuay, for example, from Homebrew was one of the people that started to push this, to get folks to just have the space so that if you're at work and your company undoubtedly uses open source, then you also have an opportunity to give back to the ecosystem. So that was sort of how the beginnings, and GitHub was a big, great champion of that initiative. It still continues. Hope everyone at your companies, if you're watching this and you're an employer, give your folks a chance to ideate, innovate, and give back to the open source community. Absolutely a good thing to do. And so we try to create a space here to invite the folks that are doing this and help them promote not only what they're doing, but themselves. And so that's how we got here. And here we are.
Whoa. I had no idea of that history, that it was because of, on Fridays we'd contribute to open source projects and that was a whole initiative. That's a really, really good genesis of Open Source Fridays. That's a great story.
Yes. I'm going to share. I feel like I can find an article somewhere and I will find it and share it in the chat. So that's what we got here now. If you are one of the folks who are actually have been a part of this initiative and your company has actually provided a space for you to do that, please tell us in the chat, because I am flush with stuff. I have prizes. I come bearing gifts. I had to clear down my closet because I've been on a trip and I just got back and I found things. So I'm excited. I feel let's give out some stuff while we're here today. I'm like, we're going to do it different today. We're going to do it different. So taking it back.
So yeah, I was going to say, so that's how Open Source Friday began. It began as an initiative to contribute to open source projects on Fridays. How did it kind of evolve into what it is today? Because I don't know the history. How did it evolve into what it is
today? The stream? I think it was Brian. And shout out to Brian, B-Doggy, the OG, now CEO and founder of Open Source. And if you haven't checked out Open Source, let's share that link as well.
Yes, I love Open Source.
So we can give it a shout. I think that definitely Brian has always had a heart for open source. I mean, he left us, sadly, but super happy for them because they left us to start their own company. And that is all about open source, right? And here's the company, Open Source. So Brian, it was important for Brian as well. So started doing the live streams, I think from his own Twitch at first, and then from GitHub's official channels with the same purpose to kind of motivate people. Let me show you some cool things that you can do in open source that maybe you didn't know. Or let me try and get folks to, because, we haven't always been in vogue around parts of the world, right? Like open source has not always been for most companies where they want to rely on. But now here we are, 2024, finally, we arrived. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, folks. Things are built out
Yes.
there. It's there.
Yes. Find the code, use the code, give attribution for the code, thank the person who wrote the code, and keep
100%.
iterating. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think Brian started to do the streams because he wanted to showcase like the things that maybe folks were a bit unsure about, to get folks to actually get interested in using different stacks, and it's evolved into this. So here we are.
Nice.
Now we get, before it was kind of like, hey, this is the thing, use the thing. And now we're like, oh my gosh, you're using the thing. Let's show people how you're using it. So it's been cool.
Yeah, Toby. Sadly, Corbin had an emergency, so we're just popping on today to talk about all the behind the scenes stuff of Open Source Friday. And so it started as an initiative to contribute to projects on Fridays. Then it grew into, okay, let's show people how to use these open source projects on Fridays. And then now it's like so many maintainers and a lot of people and companies love coming on Open Source Fridays to show off their projects, because I'm always amazed at all the amazing solutions in open source that anyone can just use and plug into their projects or products to get going. It's always so amazing to see all the amazing projects, and I love Open Source Fridays. It's truly amazing.
Absolutely. And what a great opportunity for those of you who are tuning in. So maybe you are a contributor already, or maybe you have a project, and you're thinking about including a what do we call it? An event component or a community management component? Because I think part of the way that Open Source Friday, the repo is structured now, it's its own project. We should open source it. We need to go back there and do some structure in open source,
Yes.
open source Friday. Really, because basically what happened, folks, and for those of you who work in little, big, enormous companies and have a DevRel, you're a DevRel team of 1 or 20 or 30, you know how it is. You gotta make do what you got, right? So we used to do a lot of the things that happen behind the scenes to make this stream happen very manually. Yes, very manually, very painstakingly, for the love of open source. But it wasn't a scalable solution. It wasn't a way that we could take the show to what we wanted it to be, to where we were able to talk to more folks about more interesting projects. So enter Dream Team. Let's talk a little bit about why the decisions were made. And I don't know, Kedasha, you want to share your screen? I'm afraid to share my screen. I'm coming from the Spanish from Open Source Viernes, so I apologize, but I have like 25,000 different tabs, and none of them are what I need for this stream.
Yeah, let me share this window.
But yeah, so it's going to be a fun thing to take a look. Oh, it's Inception. All of us.
Okay, so let me move the screen to the live stream to the screen. Okay, so what happened was we needed a way to streamline Open Source Friday. Just zoom in. Okay, so this is a massive screen.
I see that. Let me see if I can. Beautiful. There you are.
Okay, so we needed a solution to pretty much streamline the everyday stuff, every week stuff of Open Source Friday. So when Andrea and I took over the show last year, and Andrea has been doing streams a lot longer than I have. So like when I came in the picture, I noticed that we invited guests manually. Whenever they confirmed, yes, I would love to be on the show, then we had to, go back and say, okay, what dates are you available? Does this day work? Does this week work? And it was just a lot of back and forth. And then once they confirmed the date, then we had to manually send them a calendar invite. And it's just like a lot of the processes that I saw, I was like, this can be streamlined with Actions. So that it's not so cumbersome, because putting the assets together and the meetup links together and like all the other things already take enough time. And so I was just like, okay, how can we streamline some of the basic things that we're doing every week and enter GitHub Actions, right? So we went into Actions, and actually I found the conversation I had with GitHub Copilot chat. Of course, I use GitHub Copilot.
I have to ask before we go any further, because at this point, I want to know, were you a GitHub Actions expert? Was
Nope.
writing YAML your dream?
No.
Okay,
Absolutely
this is,
not.
I think this is an important point because for everyone who maintains an open source project and is thinking about using a bit of technology that they're not very familiar with, there's always like that resistance about the old way is Andrea's pinging people and DMing and trying to do it all very manually. But then
Yeah.
maybe we're not experts on this, but let's figure out how we could do it. So talk us through it, Kedasha, then.
Yeah, let me just let me put this gigantic monitor. Let me just do some reconfiguration.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So with the help of GitHub Copilot, I wouldn't
Mhm.
say we become a GitHub Actions experts, but it's definitely help. It's definitely like lay the foundations of how the automation could happen. Let's see.
1 second.
No worries, no worries at all. And folks, while we wait on that lady dev to, wow, I love that background, by the way, to get into an even cooler background. It's very cool. I love to hear where are you joining us from. So honestly, we never get a chance to talk to you folks like this. So I want to know. I'll start by me. I'm on the west coast of Florida. And by the power of airplanes, yesterday I was in London. It's incredible. So let's lift up your screen a tad bit. There we are. Awesome. Okay. And I'll go ahead and share the repo again. For all of you who are interested in automating processes within your organizations or your projects, and also for all of you who are open source maintainers, contributors, or supporters and would like to be part of the stream, that is the process on how to do it. Toby is joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. That is so cool. Way over there. Hang on, Kedasha. Let me unmute you. There we go. All right.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Where are you?
Okay.
Where are you? I don't even know where you are in the world right now.
Oh, Chicago.
All right. You're back in Chicago.
Yeah.
Cool.
In Chicago. Okay, so essentially we went to GitHub Copilot, of course, because I'm not a GitHub Actions expert, right? And so initially my thought was, okay, we want to send folks email when they submit an issue. So my thought was, okay, when people submit an issue, then they automatically get an email with a link to the calendar invite. And GitHub Copilot chat tried to give me some ideas, and I was like, okay, that's going to be a little bit complicated, more complicated than I want, because I would have to use SendGrid to do something, and then like they would have to give me their username or like their emails in the issue body, and that posed some security risk, because like you don't want people's emails to be in an issue body. And
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, can I, add a custom message? And so I went through a lot of iterations before finally I said, okay, fine. Whenever I add an approved label, I want certain actions to happen. And so once the conversation, it was a very long conversation, okay? But once the conversation was finished, I ended up with a few GitHub actions. And so the first thing that a guest does whenever they come to the open source Friday repository is they will submit an issue, right? So they'll select the issue type, OSF guest invite issue, and then they'll fill in all their details. And let me tell you, this truly changed the game for Open Source Friday, because this is something that we would have to do on our end. We'd have to get the project name, look up a bio, look up the repository, everything. We'd have to do all this information. And so from the beginning, we have the guests send all this information to us. Okay. Once the guests send over their issue, once they open an issue, we also give them a private calendar link where they can go ahead and book an available date. And this calendar link is now, as of I think last week, I updated it finally, Andrea, is shared between Andrea's calendar and my calendar. So whenever a guest books, it shows up on both our calendars. So we're both aware of what project is scheduled for what date. When the issue is open as well, certain labels are assigned here, and this helps us with internal tracking. And once the guest is confirmed, I believe we send a notification to the guest on GitHub. So that was another thing that we decided to do. We decided to keep Open Source Fridays administrative guest invite things on GitHub, which makes sense, right? the maintainers are using GitHub, so we should be utilizing GitHub as well. So once the label, I believe it's approved, is assigned to the issue, like once we confirm with the guest that they're able to make it, we send them a reminder, hey, you're confirmed, here's all the things that you need. And we also send them a detailed like guideline that they can get. And honestly, all this stuff wasn't difficult to implement thanks to GitHub Copilot, because outside of GitHub Copilot, I would have had to do so much digging and, like looking to figure out how to implement these actions. But it just helped us to streamline a lot more things. And it also helped me to realize that, okay, GitHub Copilot can actually help write a lot of actions. And I started getting into actions more, so much so we have another repository, a private repository, where we manage the GitHub community, the maintainer community. And at one point, there was someone submitting like blank issues, like thousands of blank issues. And we had to manually go inside and like get rid of all those issues, right? And so with GitHub Copilot, I was actually able to figure out how to close those issues. So like I automatically closed like 1,000 issues with Copilot chat. And it was such a big help because
Can you show us?
Yeah.
Or I think you did a write-up on that, right?
Yeah. So it's this blog post here. And so I was able to automatically close like over 1,000 issues because it was such a headache for us to manage. And that's been the journey with GitHub Copilot. It's been helping us just like streamline very small, very mundane, very tedious tasks a lot faster.
That's sort of the magic of it. And obviously leaning into GitHub Copilot, but also understanding actions, super key into making sure that we're, number one, keeping security top of mind. You brought that point up earlier, and that is super important, especially when you're dealing with, whether it be authorization tokens or people's personal information, like their email address. You definitely want to make sure that security is top of mind. That's something that you can accomplish also using GitHub Copilot and GitHub Actions. So you're like a YAML superstar now, huh? You can write YAML.
I wouldn't say that.
But with GitHub Copilot, we can all do it. We can all do it.
Exactly.
So I'd love to hear from our audience if they have utilized GitHub Actions to create automations like this within their repositories or their projects and what they've done with it. Because I think this was definitely an application that, again, I work here and we weren't using it for this. So it was necessary, like for us to like have the understanding of what we wanted to accomplish and then understand that the technology was there. We just needed to not fear YAML and getting into it. I love that. Kedasha, if you can share the link to the closing 1,000 automatic issues, because that's going to have actually, I think you added the code as well there, right? Like you have the actual actions files there. That'd be great. That way for all of you who are maintainers, or if you are helping out in projects, whether it be doing triage or, like for example, this was such a high volume of, it's spam, let's call it what it is. This can definitely save you time and headache. And it was pretty straightforward process. And it's perfectly outlined on this blog post and dev.to by that lady Dev.
Yeah. It was, I was so proud when I did it with Copilot. I was like, oh, wow. And then I was also exposed to OctoKit. I've never used OctoKit before.
Oh, tell us a little bit about OctoKit for those who
so OctoKit is an open source project, or it's like a REST API. I believe it uses GraphQL and REST. There's a GraphQL, there's a REST API, and you're able to interact with certain features and things on GitHub. So for example, with closing like this vast amount of issues, I had to tap into the REST API. Then I had to, create a function to close the issues. And so with the OctoKit, I was able to target those specific issues by using a filter right here, by looking for the exact issue title, because they were all the same title submitted as undefined. And using this code, we were able to just close everything. OctoKit allowed me to go into the issue to look for the owner, the repo, the issue number, and the state. and it wasn't too bad. So I learned how to interact with that API with Copilot.
And that's all information that already lives in GitHub. We just need to understand how to use it. That's fantastic. I left the repo for OctoKit if you want to check it out. It's open source. They do have a very active community, and I want to say discussions is enabled on that org as well. So if you are just getting started, there is a place there where you can actually ask questions. Beautiful. That's what we're looking at right there. Perfect. Just so you understand a little bit better about how to interact with the GitHub API.
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you. Toby says, I want to share because I love sharing how people are using our tools to manage issues, PRs, and auto responses. And yeah, for sure. I think you had the same feeling. It's like, I'm not looking through 90 open issues.
Yeah.
Auto labelers. This is why in some of these things, it might sound to you like, oh yeah, this is all over the place. And like, what are we talking about? It's best practices. It's remembering to apply labels. Listen, I know I don't do that. Please do not go to my GitHub right now, because you will see repositories that are going to like give you cringe. But it is so important to lay the foundations and set those best practices when you start your projects, because then when things scale and you go from having 5 open issues to 1,000, you can actually use the foundations that you have and create these amazing automations like what we've seen here today. So it's important, and great practicing on using labels and all that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Toby Solutions for doing that. Another comment, it can be used to automatically update contributors on your project website. This is one of my most favorite uses for actions too. You know, like the welcome action, where it's like, if I join a new, I love that. Maybe let's go to the Actions Marketplace to what we're thinking about Actions, and let's take a look and see what's there. By the way, if you're not familiar with Actions, I also dropped on the chat a link to our documentation, and there is tons and tons of content by different folks from our team. Also, my favorite right here, Kedasha, outlining how to use Actions in certain scenarios. I'll try and grab some of those links and share them on the chat so that you can go back and take a look. So what are we looking at?
So we're looking at the GitHub Actions Marketplace. And I like to say that there's an action for everything. I always like to mention that you can write, there is a GitHub action for like ordering a pizza. All of a sudden my brain forgot how to search for it.
How many is there? I mean, how many total actions are there now in the marketplace? I can remember if we can see like a complete total.
Right now it looks like there are like over 22,000 GitHub actions that's available for using. There is open commit to improve commits with AI. Oh, this is interesting.
That's
I've never seen
newish.
this one before.
Yeah, that's newish. And then if you notice, and this is very interesting, I do want us to look at this. So, but I wanna share with folks the difference between like the actions that actually the GitHub team has verified and the actions that our community created. Because again, this is for you. So you can create the action that you need for your project and then also share it with folks so they can use it within their projects. And that's what the marketplace is for. And I want to say you can buy those, right, too? Like, so if you have an action that you create and you can sell it through the marketplace so other projects can use it. What's this truffle hog? Finally credentials.
I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not sure what this truffle hog is, but to differentiate between community-based actions and verified actions, you'll see this verified creator here, which means that this GitHub Actions has a stamp of approval from GitHub. And then like the community actions would be like this one, where it doesn't have that stamp of approval, but you know, it's good to use as long as, you know, verify the code to make sure it's safe and it's not creeping through your stuff to steal anything. But that's how you can differentiate between like verified actions and just regular community actions in the marketplace.
Perfect. And again, if you have an action or an idea for an action for your own project that you're thinking, maybe I'll take the time to do that, there's an opportunity there for you to actually publish it in the marketplace. And I'm 100% positive there's ways to monetize that, but like you can actually sell them if I'm not mistaken. And then also for the love of open source. Whatever you're doing that's working, that's why we are going to, let's make this commitment, Kedasha, before we leave, that we're going to clean up our repo and our project, and then we can open source it as well. So that if you have an event, you need an event manager. Would it be? Yeah, like an event and scheduling manager. Using it programmatically with the tools that you already have access to and that are completely free. So you can use it for your own things, or you can use it for your own open source projects. So we'll do that. I promise it. It's not a politician promise. It's a real promise. What is this? I love this.
I know, it looks cool. It says generate snake game from GitHub contribution grid. So it goes through your grid and the snake is just eating up all your contributions. Oh no. It's taking away all the green squares. Let's see. So GitHub username, GitHub our start owner, which is you, outputs the snake game. Okay.
That's pretty cool. That's a community created, right? Like that's somebody.
Yes, this is community created.
Let's give the shout out to who's the creator or the contributors there. I guess GitHub is contributor as well at some point.
Ah, shout out to.
Let's see all these folks that are. It's literally snake. Could you grab the URL and post it on the chat as well, so that folks who want to play with this looks fun. And I just echo you, learner. This looks fun. It sure is. It sure is. All right, perfect. So we learned that with GitHub Actions and GitHub Copilot, we can automate boring things and things that take time. Using good practices is always key. Using labels, applying labels. I create the labels, but then I don't apply the labels. But wait, there's an action for that, right? To automatically apply labels. So It's just a matter of actually taking the time to set those parameters and have it all running. Okay. So there is a ton of actions on the marketplace. There is one called Labeler, and it is by actions, pull request labeler. What does it do?
And it's verified. So this one automatically labeled new pull requests based on the paths of file being changed or the name branch.
Okay, so a good use case for that would be, let's see, you are working on a project together. Let's say you're waiting on someone to do an update on a branch, specifically to go to production before you can come in and do something, but you're not going to be monitoring your notifications. So you want the labeler to automatically update it. And then now you know that it's ready for whatever you're waiting for. So it's cool. It's very cool. I think you're right, though. There is an action for literally everything. If there's an action to order pizza,
so many.
there is an action for what you need.
Sure. Let's see.
I know I've seen
it. It's not coming up. I think it's like Domino's or something.
Yeah, it's not called pizza, but it's definitely, there is a ton of stuff that you can do. And then again, if you have time and want to play around and figure out what would be a good action, something to improve, something that is kind of tedious on your end, then you can come to the marketplace and share it with everyone. So that's amazing. Okay, I love this. So we use GitHub Actions. The code, you can see that, folks, is our stuff where people can see it public. If we go back to our repo, I just want to see real quick if that outstanding YAML that you wrote with the help of GitHub Copilot, if folks can grab it now. But to best practices, right? Like before we say this will be the next time that you see us both on the stream, will be us saying like, this is ready for you to come and fork it and you can make it your own. So it's going to be a hot second. We're kind of stressed out thing, but let's see if we can take a look.
This is the repo. It's public, but please don't spam us with issues.
Yes. And also, if you are an open source contributor or maintainer, definitely come by and open an issue. Of course, we have to have certain criteria, and we schedule ahead of time to make sure that we give you ample time to also promote it within your communities, because that's part of the main point of Open Source Friday to me. Recently, I think there's been many streams where we have really cool projects that come in. Maybe folks didn't know about them. And then by the end of the stream, somebody says, I think I want to contribute to this, or I see a new issue that is open and it's a good first issue and I'm ready to jump in. So it's a good way to get your project out there, whether it is that you're welcoming contributors or not, for visibility, and to get feedback, to get feedback from folks. So what are we looking at right now, like the issue?
So we're looking at the issue that's submitted with the action. So the maintainer will submit the issue, And then, the label pending is assigned. Once we have scheduled, then GitHub Action will run the other actions. So this is a reminder to the guests and also gives them prep instructions. And then it's also a reminder to Andrea and I to create, all the assets needed to get the show ready.
Do our work.
Yeah.
If anyone out there has a way to automate asset creation at a scale that does not require a paid product, DM us.
Yes,
DM us
that is the next thing to automate.
Please DM us immediately because we love to do that. So it also serves as a task list for us, right? So
Yes.
we know exactly what we need to do, and then for our guests to be able to know exactly what they have to do in order to prep, and how to join the live stream, how to join the production live stream, so that they know also what channels we're going to be transmitting via.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, though. Yeah.
So that's about it. So I wanted to share this today. I thought it was, and again, thank you everyone that joined, wanting to see Corbin. We're going to reschedule that, and we will get to learn about the forms soon. New date to be published soon.
Yes.
But I think it's kind of fun to be able to share something that we did using our own tools to make a process that, even though we work here, we weren't using properly because we are not perfect, okay? And it's the same thing like joining a live stream. Nothing is gonna ever be perfect, folks, but we're here doing it with love and because we want to share this knowledge with all of you. So all of you don't have to do the things that we were doing very manually and very painstakingly.
Yes.
You don't understand you don't want to fiddle with YAML, which, listen, not my cup of tea either. But now with GitHub Copilot, it's a lot more accessible. Be able to ask it and interact. I love that you showed the dialogue because you asked the question and then it went through all the process. Okay, now tell me, I want you to do this, and I want it to, if the person replies, this is what needs to happen. Speaking that in natural language, meaning how we're talking right now, into an incredible tool like GitHub Copilot, and then getting the code, getting that amazing YAML. Shout out to all the YAML lovers. Not me, but it definitely powers GitHub Actions, so I gotta love it.
Yeah, and I will say, even though these automations are, they seem so small and so obvious, of course you would use Actions to do that. It really wasn't, it wasn't until we had so many guests that wanted to be on the show, and we also have other work to do, that we're okay, how can we make this process a lot better? And it's made the process so much easier, especially when it comes getting guests on the show. It's not so cumbersome anymore.
100%. For all the folks that are amazing, appreciate you, my Spanish-speaking people that have been. I need to bring open source Viernes into the 23 century.
I should help you with that.
Yeah, we need to automate that too, because it's been a very manual process, and also there is no need for it. But again, whether it is for something for your own project or something that work, or there is an action that can help you make the boring things happen, where you don't have to look at them and you don't have to worry about it. And with the help of GitHub Copilot, you can definitely make it happen. So Kedasha, you're the best. Thank you for showing us all this awesome stuff.
You
thank
too.
You.
This has been good.
Yes, this has been awesome. So first of all, before we leave, I have to share, and by any means, if there are any questions on the chat, don't be shy. We're pretty nice people. I like to think. Feel free to drop your questions there, please, for myself or Kedasha, whether it be about Open Source Friday or it be about whatever it is that you're thinking about. If it's about automation and GitHub Actions, ask us that too, because we lived there, we sweated it, we cried. The OG is here.
Hey, Rizzo.
Thank you for joining us. All because of you. Thank you. Appreciate you. If you don't know what Rizzo is doing nowadays, she left us sadly, but happy for her, to join a blog company, right? And we should drop Rizzo's Twitter on the chat as well, so you folks can go follow her and learn about things that will truly blow your mind, because Web 5 is a different dimension, and she's doing a lot of work to educate folks on this.
I know.
So we're gonna share.
Anytime.
We'll share the profile as well. But I want to share my screen real quick, because the question I want to leave you with before we leave here is what's coming up, what's happening, what's new. Where is
Ooh.
everyone going? Conferences that are happening. I have some travel coming up, but it's to LATAM conferences. If you're gonna be in Colombia or Chile, I hope to see you there. But I'm a subscriber of this newsletter, which, by the way, shout out to the folks at Product Hunt, because it is a really good newsletter. It's brought to you by Postman. There is a ton of really not amazing newsletters out there. This is one of those that I'll never unsubscribe because it's really good. It does a really good job at doing a good digest of what's happening in product. So imagine my surprise when I'm scrolling through this and I see familiar faces.
Oh,
And I'm
that's
like,
me.
wait a minute now. First of all, shout out to this amazing lineup of speakers. James, hey, Hannah, Jueda, Rui, and then our girl, Kedasha. So you're going to be at PostCon, yeah?
Yes, that'll be a postcon in May. Super excited about it, and I'm so excited about the
Awesome.
project I'm building. So I've been learning about AI and machine learning because, you know, I talk about GitHub Copilot a lot. So I wanted to have a foundational understanding of how models work and all that jazz. And so now that I know a bit more, I've been toying with building my own fragrance recommender model. Yeah. Listen, I'm gonna deploy it, get a database and everything. It's gonna be amazing. So I got the API working this morning, and I'm like, hey. And so that's what I'll be talking about at PostCon.
I love
Essentially.
this. I love this. Well, folks, if you happen to be in San Francisco, this is going to be in person, right? This is going to be an in-person conference.
Yes.
Definitely make it to PostCon because this sounds amazing. What else are you going to be at? This is like super stalkerish, but I literally just opened that email and I was like, wait a minute. I have to tell the folks.
I have a few travel coming up in April, so I'll also be at VS Code Day. There's a VS Code Day happening on April 24th. That's a virtual conference, so I believe anyone can go. There's also VS Code Chicago that we'll be going to. Then there is PyCon. I'll be at PyCon this year in Pittsburgh in May. And of course, Microsoft Build. Super stoked about Microsoft Build and Render ATL coming up in June.
Oh my gosh. First of all, yeah, Kedasha is in a world tour at the moment. For those of you, I mean, I'm sorry, they were all amazing conferences that you just mentioned that you're going to be speaking at. A good thing to share with the Open Source Friday audience right now would be also, how can people get Kedasha to come and talk about these awesome things at their place? So,
wow.
How does that happen?
You have to go through my manager, Ashley.
I like that. Shout out to Ashley. Ashley is a
sign up for too many things.
So for later in the year or next year, if you're interested in Kedasha, your stack is JavaScript, and now you're doing like machine learning stuff too.
Yes. So JavaScript and now Python.
Python. Shout out to all the Pythonistas. I hope to make it to PyCon US. If you're going to PyCon US, give us a holler there on the chat. They're doing these PyCon charlas every year that, you know, I always got to shout out my LATAM communities. They actually have a track for Spanish speakers. So hopefully I'll be able to make it there and support that. But what you see on the screen right now that I just beamed, we got to talk about Build, because first of all, a bunch of folks from our team are going to be there, giving demos, giving out swag. So it'll be a good opportunity for you to bring your questions and just get to meet the team. You're going to be at Build too, right? You're going to be there in person.
Yes,
there you go. To meet in person. So of all the conferences that Kedasha just mentioned, which are all awesome, also I want to share the Render ATL URL here. Describe Render ATL for the folks who not know or never participated in Render. I've only been once. I think I went to the inaugural year.
And describe Render ATL. What a vibe.
There you have it. And on that note, I have nothing left to say. Render ATL is a vibe. We're very fortunate.
It's a vibe.
We're very fortunate we're able to sponsor and participate. And there's tons of folks that are going to be from GitHub speaking, bringing new talks. There is some super deeply technical talks that are going to be happening. I think you're giving one of those. Then there is also some other talks that are about career and open source and professional development and all the things that make you like a super well-rounded engineer. So it's a vibe. It's a vibe.
Yes, it's a vibe.
Check it
Lots
out.
of tech talks, lots of technical talks, lots of music, lots of opportunities to network. It's a full scoped, very fun, very educational conference.
Yeah, it's listen, I haven't seen like really honestly like we were needing something like that because there's really nothing there was nothing like Render. So shout out to the amazing Render ATL team of organizers because you created something super special and we're honored at GitHub to be able to be a part of it. So super cool. Speaking of cool things, I have to share my one because hey, I don't know, there might be somebody here that has an interest in LATAM things. So
of course.
This is another
oh my God,
cool conference.
Andrea, let me just say, Andrea is so good at what she does. Let me just say. She does all the things for LATAM. She does streams. She does talk. She is in the community. People love her. People know her. If you're not following a la Colombia Dev, I believe your handle is, be sure to do so. She's always doing stuff for the community, and I love it so much. It's so admirable. I look up to you a lot, Andrea, and I learned so much from you, Rizal, Brian, Martin, everyone on the team. I just soak it all up. Soak it up.
I can and I die, and I'm going to go cry now. Thank you. You are extremely kind, and I really appreciate that. And Hala, I can say the same about you. A lot of folks do this for the fame and the fortune. I mean, we do too, but we care. And I can say that about that lady Dev. She cares. She 100% cares. So also go follow Is That Lady Dev, please. And that way you can keep up with all the upcoming places where you will be speaking and teaching us. And yeah, and thank you, Rizal, for the shout out as well. I appreciate that. Honestly.
Yes.
I said it a moment ago in Spanish. I'll say it again. None of this would mean absolutely anything if it wasn't for all of you and your support. So obviously we work at GitHub. We're super privileged to be able to have the platform to bring you this kind of streams. But it means nothing without you, your participation and your support. Tell us what you want to see. I think Open Source Friday is an amazing shape. If you are an open source maintainer, contributor, please open an issue and let's talk. Come on the show, please. Come on the show. Anything else, Kedasha, before we leave these good folks? Because it's lunchtime. It's nighttime for some folks. Good night, learner.
Only thing I have to say is thank you so much for always joining the show and making it great and allowing us to do the work that we do. Honestly, without you, none of this can happen. And without you, there is no GitHub. You know what I mean? So we thank you. We love you. And let us know what you want to see on the show. If you're a maintainer, like Andrea says, come on. We want to show your projects. We want to dig into it, into the codes, and show the people the good stuff that you're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this Insider's edition of Open Source Friday. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here. Don't fear actions. Don't fear the Reaper. Don't fear actions. Lean into GitHub Copilot to help you do these things. Listen, some of these things take time, automation, and this has inspired me. I have some cleanup I need to go do. I have some things I need to do on the GitHubBrazil.com website that I maintain and other things.
That's me.
So this is inspiring to go and do that. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Kedasha, take the rest of the day off. I'm an amazing influence. Thank you for coming on the show today. I appreciate you all so much. And as soon as we have the updated date for Corbin's stream, we'll be sure to share it here so that you can join us. And massive love and good energy to Corbin as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We'll see you next time on the next Open Source Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye.